Thank you, Yelena. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos. I am Kelly Dolejsi. I use she, they pronouns. I am today's worship associate. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your image of the holy, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. If this is your first time with us, we'd love to get to know you. Please sign our guest sign-in book in the foyer. You can also speak to our greeter, Mike McNaughton, or Rebecca Howard. Where are you, Rebecca? Oh, Anna. Or Anna. There's Anna, the beautiful purple hair. For more information about our church. For kids here in our service, we have our activity table up front. We ask that kids use whisper voices to talk at this table. Kids can also stay seated with their grown-ups. Grown-ups and kids can also sit in our library, which is in the back, and they can listen to the service from there. We also have a nursery for young kiddos, ages 0 through 3 approximately. Sarah Hamoud is our nursery coordinator, and she is out today. Today, kiddos are staying in the service for our bread communion. We have our candles of community area over here and in the back. Oh, now I feel like a flight attendant. Exits are. You are invited to come up anytime before the prayer time to light a candle. And if you would also like to, you are welcome to write your joy or sorrow in the book to be read aloud during the service. If you are in need of pastoral care, please contact Reverend Tina DeYoe to set up an appointment. To learn more about our spiritual enrichment programs for all ages, please feel free to talk to Terra Louise, who's in the back, our Director of Lifespan Spiritual Enrichment. Please go ahead and silence your cell phones this morning as we begin our worship service together. You are now invited to greet your neighbor. You are encouraged to greet someone you might not know or recognize. If you would rather just wave and not shake hands, that's okay too. I'll call you back with a chime. They're already like gone. Yeah, I know. That always happens. That always happens. Oh man, that looks good. Okay. Church announcements can be read weekly through your email, can be found on our website, on our monthly printed flyers, and on our social media pages. Today we are highlighting a few announcements. Today after the service, please join us for our Soup and Bread Potluck in the Fellowship Hall. Even if you didn't bring anything, you are welcome to stay and eat with us. Terra has the rest of our announcements to share this morning.
Good morning, beloveds. Yes, so we have some great things coming up. So next Saturday, we're taking a field trip to Moving Arts, and we're going to get to tour Moving Arts in Espanola, and we're also they're having a show that day. So we'll meet here at 1 o'clock to carpool, we'll tour at 2 o'clock, and then the show starts at 4 o'clock. Please let me know today if you can, if you're going to be able to make it to that. It's going to be great. And then next Sunday, we're doing something new. We're having a family breakfast. So before church, please come, and we're all going to cook together and eat together and share food. And then and this is super exciting too, is Thanksgiving. We're having Thanksgiving here. So we're hosting Thanksgiving here. I sent out an invite to the announcements, so if you could please reply to that and let us know how many people in your party and what food you might be bringing. And if you can't bring food, that's okay too. So, but yeah, we'll be sharing a beloved community feast together. So thank you.
Good morning. My name is the Reverend Tina DeYoe. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the minister here at this congregation. And this is our call to worship and chalice lighting time. We come together as a community every Sunday to pause and to worship together. Worship creates connections within, among, and beyond us, calling us to live with wisdom and compassion, calling us to be our better selves. Our worship theme for this month of November is gratitude. And today we are coming together around the gratitude we have for sharing bread and food with each other. Gratitude for the recipes of the bread that have been passed down to us by family and friends, and gratitude for the earth that produces the elements of grains, salt, water, and yeast that help make our bread. So let us now light our chalice, the symbol of our shared faith, and Jocelyn is coming up to light our chalice. And Kelly has our chalice lighting words.
Today, we light our chalice for bread. B, for the beauty we find in our world and in each other. R, for radical kindness. E, for enthusiasm. A, for abundance. And D, for the deep gratitude we feel toward ourselves for choosing beauty, radical kindness, enthusiasm, and abundance.
As Kelly moves our microphone for those who are going to share some bread stories with us today, I'm just going to ask for Terry Berry to come on up and share a story. Come on down. The price is right. And thank you, choir. That was beautiful. Thank you.
So this is lavash, and lavash is an Armenian bread, and I grew up eating a lot of this. My father would have it almost every day, along with his meze, which is what hors d'oeuvres are, along with his drink, and olives and feta cheese and kasha cheese, and it was wonderful. So it can be cracker-like, or you can spray it with some water and soften it, and then you can use it as a wrap. So lavash is baked normally in an oven called a tonnier, which is a cylindrical clay oven which is embedded in the ground with a fire in the bottom, and the bread is kind of slapped onto the sides of the oven to bake. And you may have seen Anthony Bourdain did a thing on this one, so it was kind of fun. And tonniers have been around for a long time. There was one that was found in the winemaking region of Armenia that was dated back from the 6th century BCE. And it's so intrinsic to Armenian culture that UNESCO designated it as a cultural heritage item in 2014. So it's really intrinsic with the Armenian culture. And as you might imagine, there's lots of folklore associated with it. So there is a story about a prince who was in jail and he was starving, and his lover took lavash and put it under her clothes and went in to see him and gave him lavash, and that's how he survived. But my favorite little warning about lavash is you should never let children put it on their heads. Because if they do, you will have bad weather and also not much money. So the Armenian villages where lavash is cooked, and it's, I made this in my Samsung electric oven, so it's not quite perfect, but it's as good as I could do at 5 o'clock this morning. The women of the village would get together and talk, but it was only the married women who would get together to bake the bread. And that was so they would have special time to sit and gossip about all the single people in the village. So I hope you enjoy some lavash.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Oh, is this on? Thank you, Terry. Now, Linda Deck is going to come share a story about her bread. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I have brought Irish soda bread, which kind of has everything to do with family and community for me. But interestingly, I have not a bit of Irish in me. My dad loved St. Patty's Day, and every year we would celebrate it, and my mom would make corned beef and cabbage, which he would gladly tell you is his most favorite meal. That's the dish that he would love to have, the good German that he was. But I grew up eating corned beef and cabbage and potatoes and carrots and wonderful food like that every St. Patty's Day. So when I moved on to other communities of my own, I supplemented that by making Irish soda bread. And this recipe that I've been using now since Washington, D.C. times, which was in about 1982. I was there for 20 years. I got out of the Washington Post. Mummy's Irish soda bread. And let me tell you how it's made and what the recipe is. It uses 2 kinds of flour, equal parts of AP and whole wheat, and a total pound, a teaspoon of salt, a slightly rounded teaspoon of baking soda, and 2 cups of buttermilk. So you put it all in a bowl, and you use your hands to mix that all together and make sure it's all nicely combined. Make a hole in the center, a well in the center, and pour all of your buttermilk right in the center. And then you begin with an outstretched finger, and this is all in the recipe. And you stick it down in the bowl, and you begin making a spiral. And you bring the flour into the buttermilk. And by the time you get all the way out to the edge, it should all be combined. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but then you get in there with your hands and you get it. Put it out on your work surface, lightly floured, gather it up, just make a nice rounded loaf about 1.5 inches high. Put it on your baking sheet. Now the most important part. You cut a deep cross in the bread so that it can rise better. The most important part, you prick each quadrant of the bread with a knife to let the fairies out. Now, I have never witnessed the fairies coming out, but I'm always looking for them, and it delights me even as I make it now, and I love that recipe, and it is my pleasure to have made this here for you today. There's more in the potluck, and I've brought butter for it too, which I think adds to it. Thank you.
Now we'll have Ellen Mills come up and share a story about her bread. Sorry I didn't get her name on the slide. I apologize.
So I recently traveled to Morocco, and this was my first opportunity to experience the Moroccan daily bread, in Arabic called, it's really hard for me to say this, kabuz. If there are any Arabic speakers here, please correct me. No? Okay. So in Morocco, they grow 2 main grains. That is wheat flour and barley flour. So their bread is made of the wheat and barley. In the cities, the vendors have them out every single day throughout the day and into the evening because it's something that the Moroccans eat with almost every meal. And they are, if you live in the country, you make your own. And so they are in perfect circles, very smooth and flat, and you can see I have not mastered that particular method yet. But I do have some to share here with this pink and red striped. It's really yummy. It's particularly good right out of the oven, which this is not, so keep that in mind. But this will also be over in the potluck after our service. Thanks.
And Sam Lanham is going to come up. Did I say that? Lanham. Lanham, thank you.
What great storytellers there are in this community. I was thinking more about connection, and when we started, you said worship is about connection. And then we had the children's time where bread is always shared in community. That's exactly what I think this bread is about. The bread that I made is called challah. It's a sweet bread, and it's really tasty. I hope you're going to enjoy trying it. But there's my story of this bread goes back to about maybe 15 years ago when a friend of mine from high school posted on a Facebook that she was baking bread now. And she had found this book by Jeff Hertzberg called Artisan Bread in 5 Minutes a Day. And I was thinking about doing some baking. In fact, I got into the habit of baking because in my job as a clergy person, I always like to have bread on the table in worship. And I would bake bread, and then it would sit there reminding us of community, and then I'd give it to someone to take home. So it passed around in the community, and it's all about that connection. But often when we were having communion, I would make challah. Challah is, some of you know, most of you know probably, is the Jewish bread for welcoming the Sabbath. And they, celebrating Jews, observant Jews, would have it on their table for their meal on Friday evening. And so that's what I brought. There's, like everybody else, plenty over there to try as well. I notice all these different grains and things. The one thing that's in this bread that's not on this table is honey. And when you try it, you'll taste it. It's delicious stuff. But anyway, thank you for letting me be a part of this and be in community with you all.
And Felicia is going to come on up and share a story as well.
Felicia Orth. I agree completely with the children's story that was read this morning. The first thing I do if I'm going to bake anything is pull out the bowl. This particular bowl came from my mother's kitchen after she passed, and we moved from St. Louis to Santa Fe, so it came with me. And at one point, I looked it up. I wondered, wow, had it come from Germany? I wasn't sure, because she, on both sides, Swiss-German, the folks who came to the St. Louis area in the late 1800s. And I thought, gosh, I wonder, that was from the Black Forest or something. Well, one day I was scrolling the internet, and it turned out that this was part of the collection that you would get if you collected enough S&J green stamps. Lick them and put them in the booklet. That was my job often as a girl, was licking green stamps and putting them in the booklet. And she was able to get 2 bowls, the other one. Anyway, the bread she made most often was she made a lot of strongly flavored foods, and when I lived with her, for some years, we ate Limburger cheese, and everything was pork and sauerkraut and dill and lots of onion. And but I didn't make that because I used to bring that onion bread here, and I didn't always go. So, I made the bread that I make the most often for my family because it's frictionless, so easy, quick, adaptable. It's cornbread. And the thing that people ask me most about is the texture, because I don't use the cornmeal that's been, I don't know, think of it as Americanized. It's turned into a fine sweet powder. I don't use that. I use Bob's Red Mill, medium grind. And so it's gritty. And then you soak it in the buttermilk, and then it's, less gritty. And I add mild green chili and a little tiny Parmesan. And enough butter, you don't need butter on top of it. So my mother's name was Mabel, by the way, Mabel Diedeker. I miss her very much.
Thank you all for sharing your stories with us this morning and baking this wonderful table of wonderful looking bread. I want to eat all of it. So the story of my bread is a story of mutual aid, inclusivity, sharing, and welcoming all people to the table of life and love. The story of my bread is a story of nourishment for all. And the story of my bread is a story informed by a miracle story taught to me at a very young age in the Christian religion, the religion of my birth. And this story is the miracle story in the Christian New Testament Bible called, some of you know, the feeding of the 5,000. Or the feeding of the multitude. So this modern day interpretation of this miracle story goes like this. Jesus, JC for short, was a cool, justice-seeking, and love-centered teacher and preacher in the Jewish tradition who liked hanging out by a lake called Galilee. It's called the Sea of Galilee in the New Testament, but it's really a lake. I've been there. It's not a sea. So the Lake of Galilee, which is in modern-day Palestine and Israel. Jesus was a Middle Eastern-born man to a woodworker and a carpenter named Joseph and his mother Mary. And as a young man, Jesus became a teacher and preacher. Jesus interpreted the Jewish religious texts and preached and taught love. Crowds of people would gather to hear Jesus' message of love and peace. Kind of like when folks today on social media get lots of followers. So Jesus had a lot of followers because he practiced what he preached and helped heal and care for those that were sick. He preached love, and he cared for and loved the people. Lots of folks loved sitting around the lake, listening to Jesus' preaching and teaching. They didn't have computers, phones, TVs, or iPads back then, and so hearing someone preach a message to a crowd of people was like watching a modern-day YouTube video or a social media video or a post. So one day, Jesus found out his friend died, and he decided to go to a place on the lake alone. But the crowds of people followed Jesus, along with his close followers called disciples. Lots of people were interested. Those are his followers. There you go. Lots of people were interested in the messages Jesus taught and preached because Jesus stood up for the poor, the homeless, those who were sick, those who were out without food, those who nobody else cared about, those who were bullied by the people in society that had power. And he preached that people should help each other and love each other, and this is why they followed him. Jesus taught love and compassion no matter what. He taught peace. He taught that we need to love our neighbors no matter what. He even taught people that we should love our enemies. Jesus also taught justice and equity. And Jesus was a healer. He was a counselor. People felt comforted by Jesus. Even though Jesus wanted to be alone after hearing about his friend's death, he had compassion and love for his followers, kind of like famous people have love for their fans. Jesus loved his fans, the crowds of people, and his close followers. He loved the people, and instead of being alone, he began healing those who were sick and teaching. So when it started to get late, folks were wondering what they were going to eat. Jesus' close followers, called disciples, came up to him and said that the people should be sent to the villages to go and buy food. Jesus said that the people do not need to go away and that we will feed them. The disciples of Jesus were questioning this decision a little bit. They were questioning the decision because they did not have enough food to feed the people and did not have enough money to buy food for the people. We're talking over 5,000 people, y'all. Then a young boy offered up his 2 fishes and 5 loaves of bread to feed the people. This boy shared the food that he had to help feed the multitude. The disciples again questioned Jesus and said that these loaves and fishes are not enough to feed the crowd of over 5,000 people. However, Jesus practiced gratitude and gave thanks for these loaves and fishes that the boy had shared with them, his own loaves and fishes, his resources. He then instructed his disciples to go out and feed the people with the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fishes. The miracle of this story is that all of the 5,000 people were fed and satisfied. And there were 12 baskets full of leftovers. What? How do 5 loaves and 2 fishes feed over 5,000 people with leftovers to spare? What is the magic behind this miracle? The magic behind this miracle is the miracle of sharing what we have with others. The boy who gave over his food to feed others demonstrated that spirit of sharing. The spirit of sharing inspired all the other thousands of people to share the food that they had brought with them so that all could be fed. And even if you didn't have any food to share, you were fed, and there were leftovers. The miracle of this story is the miracle of sharing. We share with one another because we care about each other's well-being and humanity. The story of my bread, wherever it is, it's store-bought, is the story of sharing. Sharing our stories and our bread at the table or outside on a hill with one another. The story of my bread is the story of abundance and generosity in the face of what people might fear is scarcity. Feeding people creates community. We know that well here, right? Community creates relationships, and relationships create love and care. The story of my bread is the story of sharing in no matter what form it comes in, even if in the busyness of life, I did not have time to bake bread and bought it at the store. Even if I couldn't bring any bread to the table this time, I brought myself and am sharing myself in this community. And the miracle of community is knowing that I will be fed and embraced no matter what, and there will be food to spare to feed those who could not make it to the table that day. The story of my bread is the story of sharing, because as we are taught early on in preschool, what are we taught? Sharing is caring. It is as simple as that. Sharing is caring. Amen, and may it be so. And in this spirit of sharing, let us now join the choir in singing the refrain of the song, Bread to Share, before we begin processing for our bread communion ritual together. The choir will sing the first refrain to begin, and then we, the congregation, will join in. Thank you. That was awesome. So we're going to open up this table in our ritual time now. And the different ingredients of bread are here and can include some of these and more, we know, right? Honey. These are corn, our grains, wheat, and even rice as a grain, right? Symbolizing the staff and strength of life. Water, representing freshness and purity. Yeast, raising the spirit. Sugar, providing for the growth of the yeast. And salt, setting limits of growth for the yeast. And eggs, enriching and enlivening the texture of the bread. So all of these ingredients are mixed, kneaded, raised, punched down for a finer quality, baked and cooled. And our common table is now full of breads from our different heritages, our different backgrounds, our different stories. Some of these breads baked by our hands and some baked by the hands of others. All of our breads here on this table are ready to be shared between all of us. But bread, like life, must be broken to be whole. To fulfill a purpose and to embrace and nourish the bitter and sweetness of life. So let us break bread together now. And so please come forward as you would like and get some bread. You could take a couple pieces if you'd like. And there's some gluten-free stuff here as well for folks. So please let us join in this time of bread communion ritual, and this table is open to all of us. Woo, woo. Thank you, Yelena. So we're going to skip our last song because we're a little over time. So we're going to go out with this blessing as we're eating our bread and continue to eat in community with one another. And if you'd like to extinguish our chalice, you can leave the candle of life there, though. Thanks. So let us go out with this blessing before we join together in sharing more food. Yay! Of all the gifts in all the world, for the love we are grateful. Of all the gifts in all the world, for helping hands, we are grateful. And of all the gifts in all the world, for food, we are grateful. And may we remember that the best gifts don't arrive wrapped in paper or bows. For love, helping hands, food, sharing, stories, community, and so much more, we are grateful. Amen. And let us eat. And you can rise in body and or spirit and sing our closing song the way. Before we eat,